Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You'll hear three friends talking to each other about a lecture they have just attended. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 7. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 7. Hey, Colby! So did you enjoy that lecture? I did actually. Stock markets in general interest me, and it was very informative to learn about what led to the stock market crash in the late 2000s.
I couldn't understand half the things that Professor Roberts said. In fact, I feel like my head's going to explode. Did you enjoy it, Jim?
Perhaps not as much as Colby did, but I did find certain aspects of the lecture extremely intriguing. For example, why did the regulators not step in earlier when it was clear to almost everyone that we were experiencing a real estate bubble? Ah, you are making the classic mistake of a hindsight bias, my friend.
Hindsight bias. What is that now?
Hindsight bias is the inclination, after an event has occurred, to see the event as having been predictable, despite there having been little or no objective basis for predicting it.
Ooh, now that sounds interesting. I love discussions that delve into the human psyche and why people act the way they do.
You'll love Dr. Martha's class, Economics in the Real World, then.
I'm already excited. Tell me more about it.
So, Dr. Martha basically picks up seemingly disconnected topics such as the violent crime rate in Birmingham and the dearth of doctors in Britain and connects the two using economic theory.
That sounds fascinating.
It's fascinating indeed. I will also be attending that class for sure. Are you guys hungry? I was just going to the cafeteria to grab a bite.
Oh, I'm starving.
Yeah, I'll come along too. So, which way is the cafeteria now? I heard someone say it's on the second.
Oh, I know where it is. I went there to get a cup of coffee before the class. It's actually on the third floor.
Great, let's go then. I think I'll have a cup of coffee first. Let me see what choices they have. There's cappuccino, macchiato, and espresso.
Try the macchiato, it's really good. That's the one I had earlier today.
I'm sure it's good, but I think I need something stronger. I'll go for an espresso.
And don't you want something to eat as well?
Yes, a Mexican grilled sandwich, please.
And what will you have, Jim?
My sweet tooth is acting up, so I think I'll have a blueberry muffin and a peach iced tea.
Sure. You guys take up a table and I'll just place our orders and come.
Now, that will be difficult, because this place sure looks crowded. I see an empty table in that corner. Come quickly.
So you guys did manage to get a table after all.
Yup, we did, albeit one with a broken leg, but it's better than not having it. So how much do we owe you, Letitia?
Let me see. So Jim owes me $8.50 and Kobe, you owe me $7.50.
Here's $8.50.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I think I got my math upside down. Jim, you owe me $7.50 and Kobe owes me $8.50.
That lecture seems to have left you all dizzy. Before listening to the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 8 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 8 to 10.
It sure has. I still can't understand why that lemon company went broke.
Lemon Company? Oh, you mean Lemon Brothers. It was a huge investment bank, not some company that sold lemon juice. They shut down in September 2008.
Well, all their clients did end up with lemons in the end, so I guess it's an appropriate name. What was the other investment bank that just about managed to stay afloat? Goldsmith something, was it?
Goldman Sachs, actually.
All right, Goldman Sachs. Enough of academic talk. Let's go out for a play tonight, shall we?
I'm on. I hear they're staging Moulin Rouge at the Grecian Theatre tonight. I've always wondered how you spell Moulin Rouge.
That's simple. It's M for Monday, O for Octopus, U for Uranus, L for London, I for India, and N for New. That's Moulin, and Rouge is R for Rat, O for Octopus, U for Uranus, G for Gas, and E for Elephant. That's Moulin Rouge.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You will hear a pet store owner talk about factors to keep in mind while selecting a pet. First, you have time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen and answer questions 11 to 14. When you choose a pet, you accept responsibility for the health and welfare of another living thing. You're making a promise to care for your pet for his or her entire life. You also become responsible for your pet's impact on your family, friends, and community. Your pet-owning experience will be most enjoyable if you consider carefully what type of pet best suits your family, home, and lifestyle. Unfulfilled expectations are a leading reason why people give away, abandon, or give pets up for adoption. So invest the time and effort to make an informed decision and ensure the years with your future pet are happy ones. When considering a pet that's right for you and your family, consider the following factors. Do you already have any pets? If so, will your current pet accept another pet of the same or a different species? If you're not certain, your veterinarian can help you answer this question. What are you looking for in a pet? Do you want a lap warmer, a running buddy, or a pet that's easy to care for? This will affect your pet's choice. Who will care for your pet? Consider the experience level and abilities of the caretaker who will provide for the pet, as well as how much time they will have available. If you have young children, a pet that's active at night would not be as good a choice as one that is active during the time your child is awake. Although it's good to involve children in caring for pets if you have them, it is unrealistic to expect a child to be solely responsible for any pet's care and welfare. Before listening to the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20. Do local laws or your housing arrangement limit your choice of pet? If you rent, your landlord may restrict the type or number of pets you can have. Condominium and townhouse associations may have similar restrictions. If you live in a city, your choice of pet may be very different from your choice if you lived in the suburbs or the country. Some species or breeds of pets are not allowed by building, town, county or state ordinances. Consider also the amount of exercise your pet will need, and whether your living arrangements accommodate that need. Are you able to provide the amount of attention your pet will need? And how many years are you willing to commit yourself to caring for a pet? Different species and breeds of animals have differing needs for companionship and attention, as well as differing life expectancies. For example, some larger birds have been known to live more than 100 years. Do your research to make sure you have a realistic understanding of the commitment you're making when you get a particular type of pet. Can you afford the costs of caring for your pet? Some species or breeds of pets have special needs that may require additional cost or effort. Think of the needs your pet will have for food, housing, socialization, exercise, grooming, and veterinary care. And make sure you can afford and are willing and able to provide them. Some pets, such as reptiles, amphibians, pocket pets, and birds, require special veterinary care. So make sure there's a veterinarian in your area who can provide that care. How long will you be away from your pet? Do you work long hours or travel frequently? Some pets need more frequent exercise or feeding, and might not be a good choice for owners who spend a lot of time away from home. Who will care for your pet in your absence? Consider not just short-term absences, but also what might happen if your pet outlives you, and plan accordingly for your pet's care. What future changes might occur in your living situation that would affect your ability to keep your pet in years to come? You are making a commitment to that pet for their life, so consider, what will you do with your pet if your life situation changes? While selecting a pet, one thing that you must keep in mind is that wild animals should not be kept as pets. They are not domesticated and often do not behave in a manner that's acceptable in a family home. Wild animals have specific needs that are difficult or impossible to meet in a home environment, and this can put their health and life at risk. In addition, they may pose a threat of disease for other pets and for human family members. Leave wild animals wild and appreciate them from afar, for your safety and theirs.
The end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You will hear 3 students, Steve, David and Susan, discussing the different courses they attend. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Well, gentlemen, we've almost finished our second semester at this university. What do you think of all the courses we attend?
On the whole, I'd say they're quite good, apart from social history, which I find to be a little too inexact.
Yes, the lecturer's style is also very, very dull.
I certainly agree with you there, although I would say that the textbook is more interesting. Welfare State. The subtitle says, An Examination of Social Development in the 20th Century.
Yes, Welfare State is a good book, but look how many pages it has. 458!
I agree. It's just too long to be easily read. far too long, although it's certainly well written in parts.
Yes, and if you compare it to the textbook for cultural studies, what's it called?
Inner Views, I think.
No, that's the book for media studies, and we finished that subject last semester. The book you're thinking of is In Perspective.
Oh, sorry, you're right. In Perspective. And the subtitle says, A Comparison of Social Groups. Somewhat interesting, wouldn't you say?
Well, mildly so, as is the subject, dealing as it does with such a wide variety of issues. But the book itself certainly oversimplifies a very complex subject.
I agree. I also got annoyed at its constant oversimplification. Life is more complicated than what it suggests.
Yes, but what you call oversimplifying may well be considered clarifying. Look at this other textbook, Government in Action. Some may say that it also oversimplifies, but it must do so in order to present a coherent picture of an equally complex subject.
Government in Action. Which subject?
It's the textbook for political theory.
Oh, I hate politics. That's why I don't like the active leadership subject either. And most of the stuff in that political theory textbook is based on the American system. You see, it's written by Americans, so it's not even relevant to us here.
I'd agree with you there. It's not relevant to us at all, since our government uses the Westminster system.
Yes, I suppose that is a problem.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Well, it seems we all have certain criticisms about the textbooks we're using, but at the same time we all like some elements, at least, of the subjects we're studying. What's your favourite subject, David?
I'm not sure. I like political theory, but...
Cultural studies is by far the best, even better than political theory, which I also like, but just not as much.
Why do you say that, Steve? I was thinking perhaps social history is worth considering as best.
Social history is good, but I made my choice because the subject is relevant to this modern society.
But so is social history, and I like the historical element, which the other subjects lack. Even political theory examines history only briefly and in a very narrow way, so I'd say social history is the most rewarding for me. What about you, Susan?
I think social history is certainly very good, but political theory is, in fact, the best, since basically every human system boils down to politics. So, despite a certain irrelevancy in the details, the basic message remains as relevant as ever.
Oh, Susan, you can't be serious. Let's ask Olive again. She's over there. Olive! Which subject do you think is the best?
Ah, a difficult question. I'm very interested in culture, so cultural studies is certainly my cup of tea. But I'm politically active also, and hope to pursue this as a career. So political theory would be the one I'd pick.
I don't believe it, even with that irrelevant textbook.
Don't listen to him, Olive. You have a right to your own opinion.
The end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You'll hear a lecturer talking to students about languages. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 36.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 36.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today, in the first lecture on anthropology, we're going to look at languages and how they are disappearing fast and what effect that's having on people and the world as a whole. We hear so much in the news about the possible extinction of animal and plant species in the world. It's a sad thing that one day certain animals will cease to exist. But how many of you are aware that the world's languages are facing a similar threat? Believe it or not, there are currently more than 6,000 languages spoken in the world today, but experts believe that by the end of this century, this number will be reduced to half. And as each language dies, the culture and specialized knowledge of a community dies with it. The unique knowledge of the environment, local wildlife, plants, animals, and ecosystems, not to mention the cultural traditions of the people themselves, will become lost forever. In essence, each language is not just spoken or written words strung together. Language has the power to hold the entire history of a people. Approximately one language dies every 2 weeks. This is an unprecedented situation. Never before in history has there been this rate of rapid decline. Most human languages are spoken by relatively very few people. Let's put this into perspective. The Ethnologue, the leading authority on the world's languages, has put together a list of every living language known to man. There are over 6,500, of which 6,000 have available population figures. Now, 109 million people speak just 10 of these languages, and they are the major languages of the world. At the opposite end of the scale, there are minority languages which are only spoken by a few people, and that's what this chart is illustrating. The number of languages is represented on the vertical axis, and the total number of languages that make up this group is an astounding 1,619. For each of these smaller language groups, the population range of speakers goes from 1 to 999. Even more incredible is the fact that out of these small languages, over 200 of them have a speaker population ranging from just 1 to 9. Imagine only 9 people speaking your language in the whole world, or even only 1 or 2 people. Now, let's think geographically. In total, there are 516 languages that are nearly extinct, where only a few members of the older generation survive. When they die, the language will die with them, lost forever. The majority of nearly extinct languages come from the Pacific and the Americas, making up 74%, followed by Asia at 15%. Europe has the smallest percentage of languages that are nearly extinct, only 2%.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 37 to 40. Now listen and answer questions 37 to 40.
Entire languages which have survived for centuries are disappearing as we speak. But why is this happening now? There are several reasons for a language's demise. Globalization has made the world smaller, and technology has made it easier for people separated by vast distances to communicate in a common language, which further ensures the growth in economic status for such communities. Minority languages have given way to the main languages of global communication, like English. On a social level, speakers may feel the minority language to be old-fashioned and behind the times. Maybe even speakers are slightly embarrassed to speak the language of their forefathers, identifying more with an international language that brings with it improved economic status. Now, some do argue that a reduction in the number of world languages is inevitable, and anything to ease communication between nations is a good thing, and granted, there is a point to be made there, but what are the long-term implications of this? Consider this. Language, in both spoken and written form, is the vehicle for oral traditions to be passed down through generations. When a language becomes extinct, this link is broken and these oral traditions are lost. This has enormous implications for the identity of a community. We can't stop the changes that are happening in the world, but we can try to keep languages alive through language maintenance programs and by documenting languages before they disappear, so they can be studied and maybe even resurrected in the future. It's also important to remember that many people who speak threatened languages can neither read nor write. Helping them become literate goes a long way towards protecting the language. Preserving a language is not easy, but there have been exceptional cases where languages have been brought back to life. In Ireland, Irish Gaelic, once a dying language, through national determination is now spoken by 13% of the country's population. We'll go into what happened there in more detail in my second lecture.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.